Last month, the Philly-based coffee roaster La Colombe was acquired for almost $1 billion. For 30 years, La Colombe has established itself firmly in the third wave of coffee, but more than that, it's become a titan of coffee technology. That's right, today we're still talking about technology, but instead of teenage engineering or the all-digital future of gaming, it's coffee technology. Let's get into it. And if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to leave a comment below, like, and subscribe. Before we cover the history of La Colombe and the acquisition itself, let's explore the innovation in a can that made them so incredibly profitable. In 2014, La Colombe introduced its first ever cold tap draft latte. You could walk in, order one, and see a barista literally pull a cup of foamy coffee for you on demand, just like a bartender filling a pint of draft beer. Already, this was a sensation, increasing sales overnight for their original cafe. The challenge became, how do we ship this? Like kegs of beer, how could La Colombe contain the draft latte for consumers that weren't in the vicinity of their coffee shops? After all, if serving draft lattes was a hit, an off-the-shelf variant would have an immense, potentially unheard-of market cap. It would mean no more standing in line and ordering from a barista. Instead, customers could pull their own bubbly espresso drinks right out of the supermarket fridge. Determined to see if this was possible, then CEO Todd Carmichael would experiment with the technology of canning draft lattes for 6 months in the coffee lab on the second floor of the flagship Frankfurt Ave cafe. What resulted would be described as La Colombe's crown jewel, transforming the company from a moderately successful chain of cafes into the fastest growing ready-to-drink company in the country. But the challenge was real. The drinks would have to survive in unpredictable atmospheres as they were shipped and stocked, and they would have to produce that iconic texture instantaneously, using a food-safe and predictable methodology. Virtually the most crucial detail came by happenstance from Carmichael's 4-year-old son and his love of whipped cream. One night, while enjoying dessert, as the La Colombe founder obeyed his son's cries of "Spray, Daddy, spray," it dawned on him. That blast of whipped cream, that sound, that was the exact thing he would need for his cans. Eureka, or as he described it, it was like if you're in the mountains at night and it's dark and there's a lightning bolt and suddenly you can see the whole mountain and all the trees. Shit, I know how to do it. The whipped cream aerosol cans held that secret to the draft problem. On-demand foam was his. Carmichael would dive deep into the needed logistics, taking trips to upstate New York, which was not only the birthplace of the future acquirer of La Colombe, but also the home of the Craft Test Kitchen, a small whipped cream plant. Before long, the team in Philadelphia was able to pull together the formula, the materials, and soon the patents. Several of them for the can, the process, and the packaging, all of which held the tech to power this innocuously powerful cold can of latte, all of which were required intrinsic to the little marvel that rocketed La Colombe to ready-to-drink stardom. Let's break down exactly how that technology works. Step 1. Design a can with a one-way valve at the bottom. The in valve, as they named it, would be a chimney-like valve located at the base of the can. Not only would they need this unique valve, but they would need a special manufacturing process for a new can that could accommodate it. After making these new cans, they would punch a hole in the bottom, flip them, and insert a grommet. After filling the can up with specialty roasted coffee and sealing it up, the one-way valve would allow for gas to be pushed inside, where it would dissolve into the milk fats of the latte, creating a creamy mixture of coffee drink and liquefied nitrous oxide, the same way it does in canned whipped cream. Then, an injection-molded propylene disc, the valve guard, would be glued to the bottom to cover the valve and make sure the can kept a clean, premium appearance. This FDA-approved tech would be just one of La Colombe's advantages over all would-be competitors. Step 2. Inject the nitrous oxide using a gasser shaker, which, as the name implies, shakes and injects the cans simultaneously to ensure stability. In addition to the nitrous oxide, the can would need a solution, which lowers the freezing point of the liquid and gas so that while the contents are mixed and subjected to pressure, the gas would not prematurely dissolve or separate from the liquid, potentially allowing the foam to overflow in the packaging process. This is also why the one-way valve is crucial, otherwise the latte would foam the moment the gas would be introduced. Step 3. The can enters a machine called a retort, which is flooded with super hot water, heating the cans under pressure to perform an in-can pasteurization. This means the latte can remain fresh for 180 days. Step 4. Motivated by yet another family member, this time Carmichael's wife, the can was built with a special cover, which meant your lips never had to touch the can. Not only does this make it more comfortable to drink on the go, but it would keep the flavor profile pure, instead of with a tinged metallic flavor note that would result from drinking directly from metal. What would all that tech be for if the coffee still tasted like the can itself? As extra dressing on top, the 9-ounce cans would stand out, not only with their minimal and unusual size, but also with a wrapped, glossy, full-body shrink sleeve, all of which were intentional choices instead of being direct printed. This wrap would be both versatile for different coffee variants, but also make sure that the tactile experience is beautiful, according to Carmichael. The design of the can would be distinctive, draw in attention, and even the 4-packs would include that level of attention to detail, being die-cut on 4 sides so the cans could be seen from every angle. Finally, step 5, it's time to simply open the can, like usual, with the tab. By opening the can, the liquefied gas returns to gas and shoots through the coffee. As it rapidly expands, rushing to escape from the puncture in the lid, it forces the liquid in the can to increase in volume and separate into 2 phases, the liquid coffee drink base and a new, delicious top layer of foam. That's right, as the nitrous oxide turns back into gas and flows through the latte, it spontaneously creates a textured foam with an uncanny similarity to that iconic draft-pulled coffee. Carmichael boasted, "I invented the ability to create textured drinks in a can." Thankfully, by being located in Philly, La Colombe was able to strike up a deal with Crown Holdings to expand production beyond their Port Richmond site, which was only able to produce 10,000 cans a day. They would also be the ones to provide exclusive rights to La Colombe for the Innovalve. How fitting that Crown Holdings would help shepherd in this new invention, this brand new technology for producing and innovating in a can, when they themselves had the patent for the original modern bottle cap over 100 years ago. 2015 would be the year of the draft latte, or as it would be marketed from then on, Nitro. By 2017, La Colombe would add one last important detail to the operation: the largest cold brew production facility in the United States, becoming the first coffee company to own its own dairy production facility, its packaging equipment, and essentially vertically integrating for the draft can alone. By expanding to open this impressive factory in Michigan, they could have fresh milk delivered directly to the plant before it became pasteurized in the can. For Carmichael, nothing was more dramatic than when I tried my first draft latte from Michigan compared to Philadelphia. The fresh milk is major. I got goosebumps. This new site would have milk delivered from the farm to the factory in tanks carrying between 8 and 10,000 gallons each. In less than a day, that milk would go from cow to can, with the line able to spit out thousands of cans each hour. By the end of the year, they projected this new factory would be responsible for at least 75 million cans. In celebration, they launched a latte 20 miles into the air. Yes, not quite into space, but still a hilarious symbolic gesture, fitting for the unique and colorful attitude of La Colombe. In a curious moment of synchronicity, that Norton Shores, Michigan location was once home to a Greek yogurt factory, and on that note, it's time to talk about how Chobani came to take control of La Colombe last year. Yes, it was Chobani, operator of the world's largest yogurt factory, who handed over $900 million to acquire La Colombe on December 15th, 2023. And this move was almost a decade in the making. Chobani had been piece by piece expanding its partnership since at least 2015, when founder and CEO Hamdi Ulukaya discovered La Colombe on his search for a roaster to provide for Chobani cafes. After meeting with La Colombe's founders Todd Carmichael and JP Iberti, the two companies would not only come together over coffee distribution, Ulukaya would subsequently buy out shares and become majority owner for $28.5 million. As described by Carmichael, it would be hard to describe how happy I am with Hamdi on board. I don't have to explain my vision to Hamdi. It is already in his DNA. Since Chobani's 2005 start in a small factory in upstate New York, it has exploded in the packaged good industry, specializing in yogurt and dairy products. In 2012, when it opened its Soho cafe, coffee was a big problem to solve. Ulukaya himself wanted to push into that conversation, but wasn't enthusiastic about coffee himself. Whereas Americans are the biggest drinkers of coffee and coffee-based drinks in the world, earmarked by dark roasts, venti Starbucks travel mugs, and at-home espresso machines, for the head of Chobani, a Turkish immigrant, coffee was thick and sweet, and served in a tiny, delicate glass. American coffee made his stomach hurt, and Starbucks had proven that there was an enormous financial opportunity in the world of coffee for nearly all generations of Americans. According to reports in 2015, there was at least an $85 billion market cap. And according to La Colombe's Carmichael on the topic of third wave coffee, we're in what I call the third generation of coffee. For your grandfather, coffee was basically a commodity, roasted dark, quick, hot, hard to differentiate. For you and me, it was discovery of lattes, milk-based coffee drinks, and for this generation, it's about different beans and how coffee grown in Ethiopia tastes different than one grown in Costa Rica. The founders of both companies clearly saw that a collaboration on this mission of competing and path-making in the expanding space of third-wave coffee would make waves. Just as both signature and packaged drinks in Starbucks had turned a Seattle startup into a worldwide brand, this new era of America's favorite drink brought with it a new type of underserved market. For a generation of Americans, Starbucks is what McDonald's was to their parents, and now even McDonald's serves a decent cup of coffee for $1 or a little more. So perhaps it was no surprise that the business-savvy investors behind the two companies saw the writing on the wall. Even back then, someone was going to disrupt the industry, and it could be them. This new wave was ushering in social and economic change and runaway successes. It was a rapidly burgeoning market of single-origin, process-first prosumers who were willing to pay more to get more. La Colombe's identity was forged as one of the pioneers in this space, a specialty coffee roaster, a local-first cafe runner, and ultimately, as we know, a breakthrough coffee tech innovator. The industry is predicted to reach over $5 billion in spending within the next 10 years, and with La Colombe's cutting-edge technology and that explosive industry, this acquisition makes sense. As La Colombe's founder waxed after inventing the nitro latte, I believe this is an $8 to $9 billion category, and I would like the lion's share of it. That cold latte in a can definitely became La Colombe's most impactful project, and it started mere weeks before Chobani entered the picture. After 13 years of having a single cafe in operation on a 50-year lease, La Colombe opened its second location in Tribeca, New York, and between 2014 to July 2015, they had engineered that industry-shaking, virtually instant success, the draft latte. Even before the can, right when it was introduced in that original cafe, sales promptly jumped 17.5% in the first week alone. Between 2014 and 2015, then, La Colombe experienced a 40% growth in revenues. So, after Chobani's first investment in 2015, nationally distributing that phenomenon became the top priority. And in a familiar tune, by 2016, the canned draft latte would completely sell out its first batch, this time of 10,000 units in 1 hour on Amazon. Yes, this patented tiny 9-ounce can rocked the ready-to-drink coffee world. And it was all thanks to partnerships and technology that can only be found from them. And Chobani might have found a bargain. And that's it for today. I know this topic was a little unusual, but it's something close to home and pretty interesting, so I hope you enjoyed it too. Make sure, again, to comment, like, and subscribe below, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.